Courting are back with their second album, New Last Name, on Lower Third Records under exclusive license to Play It Again Sam, according to Spotify. Um, Guitar Music, their debut, was rated number 2 on our Albums of the Year 2022. Was that the year?
Yeah. Wasn't that
Yeah.
the year before,
That's
wasn't
pretty high.
It's pretty high. I think Liam and myself gave it a 10 out of 10. Yanni may well have given it a 9.
May have well.
That sounds about right.
Sounds about right.
I think we all like guitar music, particularly at the time.
Yes.
Don't know how often you two return to it, but I return to it frequently still.
Not so
however,
frequent, but every time I do, I have a good time.
Yes, we have previously mentioned that if tracks 2 from 7 were just on the album, it would be the greatest EP of all time.
Yes.
Stand by it. Stand by it. But alas, they have returned. They released a couple of singles prior to the album: Throw, Flex, Emily G,
We Look Good Together,
and We Look Good Together, which gave a bit of an insight into the album. There's a change in direction, a bit more. How would you say? Yeah, a bit more pop, a bit more surface level. Is that a nice way of saying it?
Starting off already.
Oh,
I don't think that's kind of what I meant, but I also did mean it. But yeah. Liam, let's go to you first.
Oh, that's a really great idea.
Yeah, because I don't know where I'm going with any of these points. So
yeah, it's one of those. The singles from the offset were somewhat of a concern, I would say, because it kind of felt a bit more formulaic than the debut album. It felt a little less risk-takery, while also not being completely mainstream sounding and generic at the same time, but also then not really reaching very far in either direction. So felt a little bit lost in that grand space that is kind of pop music and what can be considered, between guitar pop, say, 1975 early stuff, to
don't mention their name.
to more kind of hyper pop stuff. Felt very somewhere in the middle, in the midst of all that, without really sticking the landing a bit too much from the singles. We've seen them live a bunch of times, so we've heard some of these songs a bunch of times, especially the Closer America was played a fair while ago, on relatively early in sets, and always kind of went down well in live. That one particularly went down well in live performances. So we kind of knew that we were going to we hoped that we would get something decent from a full project, despite the singles not quite hitting, hoping that it would fit a bit better within the context of the album. There's a lot of push pre-release to it being like part of a play, an imagined play and blah de blah, which, is all well and good. However, as far as I'm aware, all that stuff is in the liner notes of the vinyl and CD releases. So if you don't have one of those, you're missing out on a big chunk of it. So, we can't really talk to the kind of multimedia side of the project as opposed to just the music. Which I do think as a full project ties together better than expected.
Mm-hmm.
I think it lifts up some of those singles a bit more. But before we get into it a bit deeper, the single tracks are probably the weaker songs on the album. Some of them, especially. Throw, for me, doesn't land very well.
Yeah.
And some of the album tracks, non-single releases, do stand out a lot more than the singles.
I agree. Was Flex the first one?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it was Flex then Throw. Flex is quite good, but I don't know.
It's growing on me quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree. And same with Throw today, when I mentioned in the group chat, not to spoil my forthcoming rating of the album, it kind of clicked with me today. And throughout the day, I just kind of wanted to put it back on, which is a very good sign. Throw has really grown on me, considering it is quite especially for the opener to the album. I think it's a bit like, I don't know.
It's got a big
perceived as underwhelming, but
I think it's got a big second half, which I'm not a fan of personally. And I also think that's strange for for an opener. Is to have a song that kind of has a big end. Do you know what I mean? There's something about that feels weird. Like it should have a big beginning, if that makes sense. I know it sounds very kind of simple. But...
Yeah, I kind of get that. Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying about some of the album tracks being standouts. For me, The Hills, I really, really, really like The Hills. So the first time I heard this record, that one did stand out to me. The Wedding, I really like as well, and Happy Endings. And while we're there, Babies. Don't like them though. That was a very poor timing to say that after you spoke about Happy Endings. Yeah, I think there's a couple of elephants in the room when it comes to the album. A lot of people have been talking about the use or overuse of auto-tune. Now, I know Liam shares this sentiment. I don't think it's necessarily a negative that it's used because I believe Sean, the singer, has said it's an artistic choice and not a necessity, which, fair enough, it's their band, do what you want. However, I do think it is kind of a bit overused because there are parts within the album where they've really enhanced the song. Like We Look Good Together, for example. The vocals sound brilliant on that because of the stylistic choice. But there are some times where I think the sincerity or the feeling of the lyrics and the vocals are just kind of lost because they're just amalgamated with so many effects. Which, you know, if you want to... That's what I kind of meant by surface level. It doesn't really go into anything. I don't know, real. You know what I mean? I don't know how to describe it, but it just I can't really like connect with it.
Well, it's like an almost imaginary world, isn't it? The whole. If you try and follow the narrative.
Maybe. Well, if that's what they're going for, that's what they're going for. But
I agree. Yeah. I agree in a sense. It doesn't. I mean, it's weird because if you were to try and compare this to the first album, I never really cared if it did in the first one. Whereas this one for some reason is even more kind of like hard to grip onto, I suppose, in that sense.
Yeah, I get that. Yanni, what do you think about the auto-tune, mate?
Well, as you know from our group chat, I am not a fan of it. I do agree with your points, though. I think you put that in the best way possible, really, about when it's done and it fits the style of the song, it works really well. For example, We Look Good Together. However, I will say that I feel like that is a very standout track in terms of like on the album. It doesn't really sound like anything else on there. And I know we shouldn't talk about it because they've said they don't want to draw comparisons, but it is just a 1975 song.
Well, that was the other elephant in the room. A lot of people have been comparing some of the aspects to 1975, and you know
the only one I see is that song. To be honest with you, I mean, and then the only other thing I possibly could imagine that they're pairing it to is like the use of the auto-tune, because obviously Matty Healy likes doing that on newer stuff. But in terms of like the actual song itself, We Look Good Together sounds like a rip-off of a 1975 song.
There's another in The Wedding. One of the ways that Sean says you're 29 now in 2009 is so Matty Healy in the way he delivers that line. It's a borderline theft.
You're actually spot on.
Yeah. I mean, the thing for me, because I may as well say it now because obviously you two have more positive things to say, but I've started to not really care much about courting. Occasionally I'll listen to a couple of songs of guitar music, but I don't go seeking them. And it really does depend on the mood I'm in. I only really enjoy them when we go see them live because I just feel like the energy just fits it better. Even like the songs I don't like from this album, I enjoy seeing them live. So I wasn't convinced by them, and the singles didn't draw me in. And so having to listen to the album today, there was just nothing really grabbing me whatsoever, apart from, as you said, The Hills. I think that's the standout song from this entire album.
The Hills are indeed alive.
It's interesting
with The Sound of Music.
It's interesting because The Hills doesn't really stand out to me.
Well, that's just wrong for you, I think. But the whole
My
outro
cat just
part,
fucking well scratched me.
the whole outro with all the mad noises going on is just the peak of the album, really, for me.
See,
but
that
overall,
felt. Sorry to interrupt. That
you
felt
are
disingenuous to me, if I'm being honest.
Whoa.
Because
okay, right, all right.
it didn't seem to
Okay.
fit, and again, I mean, how boring is it drawing comparisons, whatever. But it just sounded like someone having a go at doing Black Country New Road. Big build-ups, big blowouts. In the, like, even the it just sounded exactly like something they would play, and that's not a negative necessarily. But when I don't feel like anything else in this album plays towards that, where some stuff in guitar music was a bit more in that realm, this album doesn't really play towards that. That moment didn't feel right there for me. I prefer that when they go into something more kind of they lean into the kind of poppiness a bit more, like Babies. I'm a big fan of Babies. I love Babies. I think that's a great tune. Great, like, fun tune. And I think, like, I'm coming around on, like, We Look Good Together and stuff. I think they are the kind of some of the highlights on the album for me, when they do kind of really lean into one direction a bit more.
It's not One Direction, mate. It's Courting.
Calm me down.
Well, I mean, that's all I've pretty much got
Yeah.
to say.
I'll mention... Sorry, Carl.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I didn't really mention my thoughts on the auto-tune, which is essentially the main point is, from me, is that I never once really noticed it in a negative sense. If I'm listening to it, I can hear it. Like, I'm not stupid, I can hear it. But not once that I go, oh, that's a weird bit of auto-tune. Do you know what I mean? It all just kind of fit fine. And so at that point, I don't have a problem with it.
It's just some. It's like, what's the phrase? What's the fucking phrase called? Where, like, someone makes like an AI face.
Uncanny Valley.
Forever. Yeah. It feels like Uncanny Valley for the voice, not the TV show, for his voice. Like, it just, I can't not hear it. It's just very in your face for me.
And I mean, it is a
stylistic
best, choice Cal. At the end of the day, innit?
I can't really add anything more. You said it the best you possibly could, Cal.
Thank you. I was very happy this morning when it did click, because I think out of the three of us, I've definitely returned to the singles more than you two. I've really tried to get into it, and I feel like that has now paid off. What I will say, Courting, is please make album 3 a bit more easy to get into. However, I'm very happy I have got into it. I was pretty much, as soon as this is done, I'm going to probably listen to it again, because I've been flicking through it during this recording, and I just want to.
I do kind of feel the same, actually, from flicking through it during this.
Again, I'm happy that it's like 9 songs, like Guitar Music was. It's 40 minutes, but even I can put up with that. It's just, I don't know, especially being at work listening to music all the time, I put Guitar Music on very frequently because it's so easy to just put on. This, again, I think will be the same. And yeah, you've clawed me in, Courting.
It's an interesting one. They've said that they did an Ask Me Anything on Indie Heads subreddit the other day, and I think this is where this quote is from, but they talked about how Guitar Music was supposed to be a kind of a clean slate for them, in the sense that they had been doing kind of like kind of generic kind of indie rock sort of sound stuff, indie pop rock sort of sound stuff beforehand, and they wanted to get into something a bit more interesting, I suppose, and that was their, like, here's a taste of everything we feel like we want to be involved in, and then we'll kind of go from there, sort of thing. But the problem was that was so good that anything then just feels like a step back. It's like, oh, well, why are you leaning into this part and not this part? And why are we not including these bits?
I think Flex and Throw, compared to the sheer maximalism of Guitar Music, just felt so timid and just kind of like empty. Like they sounded like demos in a way. And I think that's what initially not put me off, because I do enjoy them as individual songs, but just didn't click as much. And I think this album was kind of a bit of a poison chalice because of how good guitar music was, and
you're on fire today, Carl.
I'm really doing well. I don't know what's happening to me.
Chalice, this guy.
I'm hydrated. I'm eating well. I played football.
Wow.
This is it. This is the secret.
I might be good on this podcast now. But yeah, so I mean, I think they've done well for what it is. If this is the direction they want it to go in, they've done it well. Yeah, pretty much that's all I've got to say on it. If you two are done, I think we should get into rating it.
Real mixed bag there, right?
I know.
I mean, maybe it's good, No, all news is good news and all that, whatever the phrase is. All publicity is good publicity. It's one of those where I kind of, I do feel like I want to keep trying it, because obviously, in life, you want to enjoy things. So where there's a glimmer of, oh, this is all right, you want to kind of try and encourage that a little bit. But I do think it's a shame that, as you said before, Callum, wasn't as easy as it should have been. And that's probably the big difference between this and the other stuff they put out. But
in light of that, Yanni, I know you're probably gonna say no, and you probably never will do it. But I just sporadically just try and come back to it, even if it's just the ones that you like.
Sorry, just to touch on what Liam said. There's a glimmer for you guys, or was at least.
Mm-hmm.
There's no glimmer.
Yeah, but you like the hills. You like
that? I mean, I don't know if I'll ever sort of go back to it, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, try, fucking miserable prick.
I'm not miserable, mate. I like things.
Honestly, I can't remember the last time you said you liked something.
All right, we'll just go listen to the old video we just did.
Go and check out the one with
your thing.
Yeah.
No, not that one, you dickhead. The track roundup.
Nah, I'm only joshing, but genuinely do it. So I'm gonna rate this. I'm gonna go straight into it. Why dilly daddle? An 8, which I'm very, very surprised at.
You're not the only one, fella.
Jeez, that's pretty high, Cal. It's been an interesting one to revisit in like a year or so. I think I really do think that if we were willing to put to care enough to come back to it, because I do feel like my score may change, but I'm giving it a 6.
Okay.
Johnny?
If you are just gonna bash it, I don't think you're qualified to rate it personally.
Do you think you can fairly give it a score, Johnny? I mean, it's all your opinion at the end of the day.
Well, the whole thing is just our opinions, isn't it? So it doesn't really matter. I'm not doing anything different than I wouldn't have done when we were recording albums previously. So yeah, I'll give it a score. 3.
Jesus Christ. That's like Lonely the Brave levels.
Yeah. Nice. Well, thanks, Colin.
There's a full score happening somewhere. Leah's going to have to actually do maths here, because that's quite a disparity.
What were the scores?
Oh, yeah.
8-6, so that's 14 plus 3, 17. So you've got 5.6 recurring, I think.
Yeah, I think you're bob on there, pal.
6, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a full score of 6.
Well,
we're not going to round down from that number, are we? No, it works.
Well then, not quite the near perfect 10.
Well, it would have been a full score 10 last year if we'd have done it like that. So
brutal. Better next time, eh?
I mean, I tried quoting, I really did.
The rate at which they're putting this stuff out, by the time I get married, they'll probably be a new album. So we'll play it at the wedding, eh?
This one isn't for me, but you never know. In the future, there might be stuff for me, and that's fine. I don't have to like everything.
That is true. Please like, subscribe. Let us know what you thought of the album.
This video, though. You do.
Please do like the video. Yeah. Let us know what you think of the album. Courtin, if you watch this and you want to tell us,
to me again,
please,
sure.
Please do.
We still like you.
Yeah, we still like you. We'll still come to your gigs, and
I'll still be there. Yeah, but I'll keep myself safe.
I get paid tomorrow. I'm going to buy your records, so there's that. That'll hopefully make up for Yanni's rating of a 3. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.